What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens episode review. Today, guys, we are going to be going over episode 48 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens, a very exciting episode that we're going to be covering today, guys. I am so excited to be covering this with you guys. So, without further ado, guys, let's not waste any more time, and let's get right into it. So, generally speaking, what are my thoughts on this episode? I'm going to be honest with you guys. This is probably my favorite episode of the arc. I really did enjoy this episode. I was so invested in this episode to try to learn about Tiger and Asana's backstory because they had been strongly hinting at a relationship between the two from what happened in the last episode with Tiger challenging Asana after they defeated Goha D6 to the ending shot where you had all the younger versions of the crew and you had that shot with Tiger and Asana in that shot. It was very fascinating to just learn what in the world their backstory was, because it was very interesting that they knew each other. And then there was also the thing with like Caterpillar and that kind of stuff that kind of tied them together. But this one went even deeper with the Tiger and Asana thing, and that's basically what this episode was all about, which made me very excited for this episode, and I feel like it nailed for what I wanted to see. But we'll get into that a little bit later into the episode. But we have to obviously start at the beginning of this episode. This episode starts off with Yugioh, Roa, and Neil basically getting a note from Dove Rap thanks to the crew, the crew of Luke, Roman, and Gakuto, basically informing them on the situation and basically the goal and motives of Goha D6, as they kind of learned that in the last episode thanks to Kaizo and his confession button. And they basically learn what's going on and what Goha D6's motives are. The one thing to really take out of that scene was the fact that Neil didn't know what was going on. Like, he didn't even know that what Goha D6 was trying to do was even something that can be possibly done. As someone that has worked in Goha probably his entire life, especially since he was a kid, he thought he knew everything about Goha Corporation, but clearly he doesn't, as we kind of learned that he had no idea that you could actually do this. And, you know, Roa kind of makes fun of him a little bit for that, saying like, oh, as someone that works at Goha, you didn't even know that? Like, but to be fair, that's just Roa and his personality. But that was very fascinating. So there is stuff going in Goha Corporation that Neil doesn't even know. And I feel like he's very well versed in Goha Corporation, not only for the fact that he's been there basically his entire life, but he's a hacker. Like, the fact that he doesn't even know that this is a thing in Goha Corporation is fascinating. The fact that Mr. Goha, or President Drone Goha, whatever you want to call him, basically has been hiding information or hiding stuff from people like Neil, which is very interesting, which also poses a question of how does these six goons even know that this was even a thing, which we'll get into that a little bit later, because we kind of get an answer to that. But basically they get informed on the whole situation. They don't end up going to Maximum Mountain, as we'll learn a little bit later on, but we go back to Maximum Mountain, and you kind of had a little bit of a funny moment where for some reason Asana didn't know Luke was Tiger's brother. I mean, to me that was hilarious, because the fact of the matter is that I understand that Luke has not even said his real name, but they look alike. How do you not notice that? And you even have, I think what only made that scene funny was that Roman and Gakuto basically said, "What? Seriously? You didn't even know that?" Like, everyone knew that. I guess Asana just was short on the memo, and she kind of laughs about that. But, Tiger tries to change the subject about the whole matter, and basically trying to say, like, okay, now that we have dealt with all of this, let's go into what the real main focus is. And it apparently is them settling their rivalry, as Tiger challenges Asana to a duel out of anger. And before that, you even had the scene with the Goha D6, I guess, leader. He kind of goes into a little bit of a banner saying, like, we're still going to accomplish their goal even though they were defeated. I don't know what the heck they're still doing. I'm surprised that a Tiger hasn't killed them at this point. point. I know that sounds dark, but geez, I mean they were piled up in bodies. Like, come on, dude. But they kind of have a little banner. Luke kind of gets a little bit into it. Tiger basically tells him to shut up and basically shoots into the wall as usual. Which I'm surprised after the beating that. Actually, to be fair, for the beating that both of the characters have had. I'm surprised that those two characters aren't dead yet. I mean, the fact that literally that Goha, like, president, I guess, for them, or the, like, leader, has not gotten very severely injured or dead yet. I mean, basically, they got defeated pretty badly to the point where they were all just lying on the floor. And by the way, 66 men lost to 5 children, dude. Come on. Like, really? But basically the moral is that they were just trying to kill Goha D6 even more. That's basically what that whole scene was. And then we get into the actual duel between Tiger and Asana. General thoughts on the duel. I did enjoy the duel. We're gonna go more towards the final turn of the duel. Not saying that the first 3 turns were bad or anything, but the first 3 turns is just like a general, like, generic rush duel. That's what it kind of really felt like. It was the last turn where it kind of really interested me in terms of this episode, is because during the 4th turn we actually kind of get into the backstory of Tiger and Asana. But let's go straight into the 4th turn. Asana is the one that actually has this turn. She goes for a draw and activates a field spell, actually, the snow-capped summit of spectral Sangrila. I think that's how you say that. She activates this field spell and it sends them to this snowy little area. An interesting field spell for Asana because of the field spells that she used last time. It was like a beautiful place full of flowers and all that stuff to basically a snowstorm, which also pretty interesting card, being able to summon level 7 or higher monsters with just 1 tribute is what this card allows her to do, that's when she gets into her new ace monster, Crush. I believe that's how you say that. The mythical sword, Demolition Dragon. We do get to see that this episode. Actually, she summons 2 copies of the dragon, which I didn't even realize it until now, kind of just looking back at the episode. When we saw the shot of the 2 dragons on the field, to me, they really look like Borlo Dragon and Borosword Dragon. I don't know if it's just because of the fact that the drill on one of the dragons looks like a sword and they just are dragon monsters. They just really look like Boral monsters, which is funny because I just did a video recently on the Borlo Ritual. If you haven't already checked that out yet, I did a video on the new Borlo Ritual monster. General thoughts, love the cards, but make sure to go check that out. I do recommend it. They're 3 pretty cool cards. But getting back on topic, she summons those 2 new ace monster, or that new ace monster, I should say, during that duel, which was really, really cool. But before we even get close to even that, because she doesn't even summon that monster until the whole situation ends up getting, like, solved. But going back before that, we learn about the backstory between these 2 characters. Basically, the moral of it is that they were best friends growing up. And funny enough, what this episode was telling us is that Tiger is the same age as these kids, which shocked me. Because looking at Tiger, I really thought she was older than everyone else. I thought she was, other than Galliant, I thought she was the oldest of the group. I thought she was about as old as Caterpillar, I think about the same age, which is funny enough too. That means that Caterpillar, if you really think about it, is the same age as Yugioh and the crew. I will tell you this much. Tiger and Caterpillar do not look their age at all. At most, I would say they're 15 years old. That's what I believe their age was at. 14 to 15 years old is what I kind of expected their age to be. I think they're 11 years old, I believe. So she's basically this age. Maybe at most she's 12 or 13 is what this is telling me. But they're very close in age. But basically, we learned that they basically admire each other to some degree. Asana saying that she looks so cool because when she went to go and see Tiger with her great-grandfather, she was actually working on her martial arts, and she thought that was so cool that she was able to do that. And then you had Tiger seeing Asana in that basically the I guess the shovel of the excavator, she kind of gets impressed by that as well as calling her a princess. And you even get that scene of where like they were in that I think it was like a corn or flower field or something like that, and they were just holding hands, just kneeling on the ground and just looking at each other. And we even do find out that their very first duel was against each other, the first duels that they ever participated in during the whole Goha duels days. They were their first opponents against each other, which was pretty cool. But obviously, Tiger kind of interrupts before we get any more of that. But they just got into the point, the main focus of what basically separated them, which was my very big interest when it came to this episode. So basically, what ended up happening was they were walking through a snowy, during a snowy day. They were trying to look for Luke, actually. So Luke kind of starts this whole entire thing off of why these two separated. And Luke doesn't even know what in the world is going on, which I don't know how he has not figured out that this was something that happened. I'm surprised he didn't even know that Tiger and Asana were very close. I feel like Tiger spent more time with Asana more than Luke. I really do feel like that's the case, but he was very clueless about the entire thing, which makes it more like concerning when we get a little later on about him remembering a song than remembering this past, because there's no way you're telling me that this kid was not told about the whole situation. I'm really surprised he had not figured that out yet. But basically, they were out on a snowy day trying to look for Luke because he ended up disappearing, and they end up having to go and split because they could not find him anywhere. You even see little Tiger crying at this, which I think is the first time we've seen Tiger cry in this entire series. So that just made it to me show that she was worried about this situation. You know, she was worried about her brother, which really makes me respect her for that, because, you know, she gives Luke a lot of hard times with him. We all know that. I mean, we even see it in this episode as well. But she does care for her brother. I remember, and I believe it was her duel against Yuga, she does mention how she watches over Luke. Actually, they show this shot during like episode 2 where she's actually watching Yuga and Luke actually going at it, which was the duel from episode 2. So that was pretty interesting as well, just showing that she does care about her brother, and even though she'll give him hard times, she still does care about her brother. So that was a little bit of more push towards that, and I really do like that. Tiger ends up eventually finding Luke, which I don't know how in the world she didn't realize that he was at home just drawing. Like, I don't know how in the world she didn't even think to check there first, but instead check outside. I guess maybe because maybe he was outside originally and he disappeared. But she ends up finding him. She goes back out to try to tell Asana the whole news of what ended up happening, but she never was able to find Asana, and that's why she was so mad at her, because she thinks that she went back home and just forgot about her, basically, and it really angered Tiger about the whole scenario. And, you know, Asana gets a little bit stunned by this, and we see some weird things with Schwer, as you know, Galliant and Caterpillar were kind of surprised that Luke was the reason for this, but you kind of see like Schwer kind of a little bit nervous, not during that part, but just a little bit later on. You kind of see that he was acting a little bit weird, but after that whole exchange, he finally breaks. He ends up interrupting the duel and basically explains his story of what ended up happening. And, you know, Asana actually tries to stop him from saying anything, but obviously he thinks that it's the right thing to do to actually say something. So we kind of learned a little bit about Schwer randomly in this episode, which, oh my gosh, Schwer is one of the weirdest characters in this show, I swear. Just this scene alone that we got in this episode makes me believe, if it wasn't clear already, that Yugioh Sevens is the weirdest show we have ever gotten. At this point, I know some people will still say GX, but just this episode in particular is making it more and more seem like this is just the weirdest Yu-Gi-Oh show, as we kind of learned a little bit about Schwer, and apparently he's the Dove Rap, I think is what his name is. He's his brother? I don't even want to... I don't really know what to say about that. Apparently he works for this company, which is where Luke actually knows the whole company. He even sings the theme song of it, which can remember that, but doesn't even know about the scenario with Tiger and Sana. Let me remind you of that. But he kind of explains the whole situation. He was ordered to go and deliver a package on a snowy day, and as he was going, we actually see him that he ends up falling from, it looks like the trees. It was a weird little scene, but he falls into the snow and gets covered by snow. And that's basically when it goes to the scene of where Asana actually goes and rescues him with his great grandfather. Which, funny, doesn't that seem familiar? Schwer literally told us this during his backstory in episode, I believe it was 36. It was 37, I think. Yeah, I think it was episode 37. He mentioned to us in the backstory. I was really hoping that they would tie this backstory because I thought it was very funny that it was a snowy day during this whole event that ended up happening. Thinking back on Schwer's backstory, it's like, that was also a snowy day as well. I wonder if they'll connect the two, and that's what they ended up doing. I love when they did that. The fact that they tied Schwer's story in with the whole situation that was going with Tiger and Asana, I thought that was great, and that's what I think really made the episode for me, was just that alone, just being able to connect that stuff. I will give props for Sevens for doing that. But, you end up finding that out. Asana actually contacted her great-grandfather when they ended up splitting up to try to see if that can help as well. And obviously, his great-grandfather ended up scooping him out of the snow, took him to the hospital, and that's why Tiger could never find her. She didn't went back home. She went and took Schwer to the hospital, probably because he got frostbite from being in the snow for so long, which... Speaking of which, how does Tiger not get frostbite out in the cold? She literally went outside in her her karate outfits, barefooted, has no winter clothes on. She just goes out there. She's walking in the snow barefooted. How in the world have you not gotten frostbite on your feet? I don't understand that. I know it's a stupid thing and not really that important, but why are you not wearing winter clothes, my dude? I understand you're a martial artist and all that stuff, but come on, dude. Have some common sense, dude. But I guess maybe she doesn't need it. You have Asana dressed up in all her winter outfits, but obviously, I guess Tiger doesn't need it. But she finds out the whole scenario. She's shocked about the whole entire thing because Asana never told her about it. And apparently the reason for Asana not telling her about it was because of the fact that she thought it was an excuse. She thought if she had told Tiger of what happened, that she would just be making up an excuse. Let me just say this. If she is your proclaimed best friend, there should be no reason why you should be worried to tell her about the situation. It's not an excuse. Say, for example, I'm hanging out with one of my friends and something happens to, let's say one of my family members ends up getting put in a hospital or something like that, and I end up going there instead of that, but I don't tell my friends about it. If they're your proclaimed best friend, they should understand the scenario that is going on and should be like, oh, if that's the case, then you should have gone and done that. At least you found the brother and that's what you were doing. But the fact that you didn't tell, and I will also bring the great-grandfather in this as well. The fact that he hasn't said anything about this as well was a little bit interesting as well. I don't know if Asana told him not to tell her or anything like that, but I don't know. That was just a bad move on Asana. I love Asana, but there should have been no reason. If she was your proclaimed best friend, you should be able to tell her anything. And I think she kind of realized that, and she even apologizes to Tiger about the whole scenario. She apologizes as well for that. And, they're all back to being friends. They basically had settled their differences. But what was really cool about it, too, is, even though all that got settled out, Tiger had this whole big speech about, okay, even though we got this all settled out and I'm not mad at you anymore, we still got to go all out. as rivals, we need to go all out and give this duel our all. And even Asana goes into this as well. She agrees. You even see Tiger getting a smile on it as well. And that's where we get into the continuation of the duel. Tiger ends up losing the duel. Asana is able to overpower her with her new ace monster, or 2 copies of her new ace monster and her original ace monster, Build Dragon, and was able to win the duel against Tiger. And even after the duel, she basically goes and lifts her up in the old fashion. They basically give a handshake to basically symbolize the end of the duel. And then you even see a little thing about it where they kind of shrink, and you see Asana and little Tiger, the little versions of them, just hugging each other out, just showing the relationship between each other, which was a really nice scene, and I really did like that. But this is where we get towards the end of the episode, where after the whole scenario happened, Luke was kind of doing the whole thing where he was actually calling Tiger Asachi, because that's the nickname that they ended up giving each other. And, Tiger was getting a little upset about that. And one of the times that Luke got blown back, we see this piece of machinery that apparently Goha D6 were actually looking for. And as they were going into it, they, or at least Kaizo tells them, that they're not able to really do anything with it. For the purposes of what they were trying to do, it's impossible for them to do. And, they kind of get a little disappointed in that, just kind of shaming on them a little bit more to just make their whole entire character pointless. What made it interesting that he drops to the ground and says, we see this piece of paper, which was really weird, and he was like, but I was told that this is how you were supposed to do it. Someone told me that this was the possibility. And, that kind of confuses Luprum and Nagakuto. They end up noticing it. And then we see a shot where apparently a drone is watching them. I don't know what in the world that was about, but a drone was watching them. Then we leave Maximum Mountain to go to Neil, I guess, facing one of the members of the astronaut group. I don't know why the heck they ended up dueling. I mean, the tournament, or that day of the tournament, was already over, so there was no point for them to duel. He kind of says how Neil was really strong in his YGG Drago, and, they were kind of talking with each other, well, not really much, and Dovrov comes back and actually brings another piece of paper, this time the paper that Goha D6, the leader, had, which basically said the plans to take over Rush Duels, or to take over Goha, excuse me. And that was a very interesting thing. They kind of get shocked about this. They look, and this is what made it weird. They look up and they look at the 2 other members of the group, and you see that the redheaded kid had a ladder, and the girl had binoculars, same color as the drone, by the way. Which I think that there was a drone and then there was binoculars. I don't think there was anything like she's holding a drone that can transfer into binoculars. I don't think that's the case, but there is something with this astronaut group. I really do believe that. Because it was already weird enough that they dueled, which I don't think was really the main purpose. But the fact that they had a ladder and binoculars for seemingly no reason. For one thing, as an astronaut, or to be fair, I don't know much about astronauts or in the profession of astronauts, but what's the purpose of a ladder? What do you need for a ladder? And even binoculars, I will say, I don't think you really need binoculars as an astronaut. So it was very weird that they were holding those items during the duel, and the whole scenario ended up finding out, and that's when you had the whole duel between them, so they weren't really involved with it. They might have had a drone or something going there. I don't know. The whole scene was just weird, but I do believe that there's some connection, or if they aren't doing it themselves, they know something about the whole scenario of someone wanting to try to take over Goha Corporation. We knew that Goha D6 was kind of wanting to do that, but there's someone else that knows a way to take over Goha D6, or knows something about the whole scenario, and it's really fascinating of what that brings up. I will be honest about it, though. I don't think we're going to find much more of it this arc. I really don't believe that. I think this was just the last episode to do anything, because we do see at the end of the episode as well, they talking about the tournaments. Obviously, the finals are coming up, and that's where we end up having Fish Umiko apparently is doing it now, which I guess with Sweets Kakako being gone, she is the next one that have to do it, which that's a whole other thing as well that I don't even want to get into. Like, I've heard so many things about that, whether they're the same person or not. Like, there's something going on with these characters. I think that's pretty obvious at this point. I mean, if it wasn't for the whole Kakako line, the fact that there's 4 different versions of these characters that looks alike and have kind of have same motives in their own ways, as they kind of been helping these groups out. There's just something with them. That's basically where I'm getting at. But this was just a loaded episode. I didn't expect the episode to be that much. I thought we were just going to learn about Asana and Tiger's backstory, but that was not the case. We even had that end shot at the end, which was very interesting as well, and even kind of learned about Schwer a little bit, but honestly, that really didn't impress me that much. That was kind of more concerning more than anything. But guys, that is going to be it for this episode review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are on this episode. Did you like the episode? Did you think the episode was okay, or did you not really like the episode? Let me know your guys' thoughts on the Tiger Asana duel and the backstory between the two. I guess Schwer, and just the end scene that we had at the end of this episode. Like, again, the fact that we got this much in an episode, which I just thought was just going to be the backstory and that's it. The fact that we had that much to go over in this episode is insane to me. I'm really surprised about that. But let me know all your guys' thoughts are on this episode. But guys, with that being said, that is going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, guys, take care and have yourselves a great rest of your day.